One of the hottest
Glad I
questions.
didn't repel you from coming back.
You inspired me to make sure I got here
No,
today.
thank you.
One of the hottest questions in the primary is who is the Democratic candidate who can best beat Trump? It's an important question to ask, but I'm concerned my fellow New Hampshire friends and I don't have the full information to contemplate the question. You've touched on some of the reasons for your candidacy, answers that. But in the past 10 years, my husband and I have moved 8 times. We met at UNH, and for over 20 years I lived in Stratham, New Hampshire. Since then, we've lived in central Pennsylvania, coastal Florida, and San Diego. My 3 now adult sons went to school here, and my youngest son also went to UNH. He currently lives in Arvada, Colorado, next to Denver,
We're happy to have
your
him.
home state. In all these moves, the real takeaway for me was that we have regional differences in the type of candidates we prefer. If we don't take those real differences into consideration here in New Hampshire, we can't answer that question of who can best beat Trump when we cast our ballot in New Hampshire. Across the country, I think we sometimes want to elect the smartest one in the room, but sometimes we want to elect the person that we feel most comfortable with having a beer or a cup of coffee. Stellar academic credentials from Holy Grail institutions don't always impress people from outside the Northeast as much as they do here, and in fact, I think it sometimes hurts candidates from the Northeast. I think you are one of the best candidates to help educate us on this issue, and I was hoping you could offer any observations to this crowd here today on what we need to look at New Hampshire and why you're our best candidate.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. I'm not going to tell you where I went to college or law school. Somebody once read that stuff to me. They were introducing me at a town hall meeting at a place, at a county where I would later get something like 20% of the vote, and I was absolutely convinced they were doing it because they wanted me to lose, and that's why they introduced me. But look, the way I look at this is I'm the opposite of Donald Trump. That's how I think about this. And if we think we need somebody who's kind of like Trump to beat Trump, I'm not going to be the candidate. But if we think maybe the opposite of Donald Trump is what the country needs, then I hope they'll give me a look. And I believe that I'm the best situated to beat Donald Trump. I've been in the Senate for 10 years, which is long enough to have gotten some things done, but also long enough to know why the place doesn't work as well as it should. I think somebody coming from the outside is going to have a very hard time learning that. It's taken me a long time to learn it. I have had experience outside of government, or outside of the federal government, in the private sector. I think I'm virtually the only candidate that has had business experience, and I know I'm the only one who's had business experience and also ran a large urban school district in this country. And I think that gives you a perspective on what really matters. And what really matters to me, as the father of 3 kids, are your kids and your grandkids. That's how I evaluate the work every single day in the Senate and every week in Washington. And we've not done a good job for our kids over the last 10 years. And I can tell you this, the current president of the United States doesn't care less about your kids or your grandkids. And I think that should be a starting point for the person that we next elect. And the second thing I'd say is, I mentioned this earlier, I'm the only candidate in the race who's won twice in a purple state. And that's really important, because when you run in a state like my state, just like when you run in New Hampshire, you don't say one thing in the primary and another thing in the general election. You know that from the day you start running, you're going to be held accountable on election day for what you're for and what you said. That's why the policies I've supported in this race, I don't have to make up my home care policy every week or think of a new one, because I've had the same one since we passed the Affordable Care Act, which is the public option. Same thing with my climate proposal. I mean, these are things that I developed to try to unify a state that's a third Democratic, a third Republican, and a third independent. And I believe some of the other candidates that are running in this race are going to divide us in ways that are not going to pull us together so that we can move the country forward. So that's how I look at it, and I think anybody in this race is going to have to earn the opportunity to beat Donald Trump, because the number one question that people have is, can you beat Trump? And who's the right person to beat Trump? And you and Iowa are going to make an early decision about who that person is. And I'm glad you take it as seriously as you do, because every single person has to earn it, your confidence. Yes?